Are you tired of having to imagine your wizard spells? Or using a sad token to mark the fireball your druid just cast? Maybe you don't have a proper way to represent entanglement. Well, don't miss this, because today we're going to make realistic spell marker for your games. Don't waste any time and get your tools ready, because we're starting. Okay, first we're gonna make fire. In my case, I wanted to make two types, 4-inch fire walls and individual flames. I say it in inches because that's the size of a grid square in D&D. But if you're not American, don't worry, you can easily convert the measurements. Let's get to it.
The first thing we will need is a sheet of parchment paper or a silicone surface. I opt for the first option since I'm going to make some marks with a pencil to know the size of the flames. For the small flames, make them 1 inch wide and 4-5 centimeters high. For the firewalls, make them 4 inches wide and also 4 to 5 centimeters high. Great, now we will use our hot glue gun to apply glue on the paper, from bottom to top, trying to mimic the shape of flames. Since the glue is very hot, it tends to soften the shape we give it when applying. So when it dries a bit, we will make some passes with the tip of the gun to create grooves and add texture with its heat. We will do exactly the same with the firewalls. To make a wall, we will use 3 pieces, one central piece 5 cm high and 2 external pieces 4 cm high. For the flames, we will use 3 pieces per flame, but you will see this later on. With all the parts dry, we will start painting. I'm using red to paint the top half of the flame. Then, immediately, with yellow, we will do wet blending with the red we've applied. This will create an orange tone in the middle that will fade into yellow at the base. This is because the hottest part of a flame is always the base, and the color tends towards yellow and white. In the end, I went over with yellow again because these color tones cover the least and acrylic paint isn't the best for painting on glue. But if you find it difficult for the color to stick, you can apply a couple of coats. Finally, I did some dry brushing with yellow over the orange part to give the pieces a more interesting effect. For the bases, I will use 2 things: ice cream sticks with the ends cut off for the walls, and some round MDF pieces that I had left over from a paint organizer I bought a while ago, and saved because I knew they'd be useful at some point. We will paint both pieces black. To dry the sticks better, I stuck them into a piece of modeling clay to finish the missing part later. When the paint we applied on the flames is completely dry, we will carefully peel them all off, starting with the base. Okay, the camera stopped while I was gluing the walls. What you need to do is put a bit of hot glue to stick them together, making a sandwich with 2 4 cm high pieces and 1 5 cm piece in between. Then add more glue to the base to secure it well. Stick the vertical firewall on the paper and outline the entire base with more glue. When it's dry, peel it off. For the individual flames, I drew the size of the base with a pencil on the paper. Then, carefully, we stick 3 pieces trying to follow the circular shape at the base and glue the side edges together. Finally, although it's optional, I also made some longer and narrower pieces to put in the middle. When it dries, peel it off carefully. With all the flames ready, we will use a lighter to remove the threads left by the hot glue. Be careful and don't keep the flame in one spot for too long to avoid melting or burning the piece. Next, paint the bases yellow so the original glue color doesn't show, and touch up any necessary areas. Finally, glue all the flames to the bases using hot glue, and there you have it.
Perfect! If you're enjoying this, wait until you see the rest. Now is also the time to ask you that if you want to support this channel, hit the like button on this video and subscribe down below. This is something that helps me a lot to keep going. Now let's make some ice walls using scrap foam pieces.
Alright, for the ice walls, I'm going to use some foam scrap pieces that I had stored. Just like with the firewalls, I'm going to use a measurement of 4 inches. In height, they will measure 4 centimeters, which is the thickness of the insulation boards I usually buy. We will cut the pieces to size, and then, using the same techniques we use for the stackable hills, we will shape the pieces. Since these are very lightweighted pieces with a small base, it will be necessary to add weight. So we will put 3 screws in the base to make the piece more stable and ensure it stands without problems. For the painting, we will prime directly with white acrylic paint mixed with PVA glue, trying to cover the piece well. If necessary, you can apply 2 coats. Finally, we will apply a blue wash, which is what will give it the ice appearance. In my opinion, this painting method is an incredibly simple way to create ice, but the result is very good. Let the pieces stand while they dry, and after an hour or 2, your ice walls will be ready.
Previous one was pretty simple, to be honest, and you can apply the same techniques to create other shapes. Now let's move on to two markers that I'm sure you will use a lot: Entanglement and Grease. By the way, if after watching this video you think something is missing or you have any ideas, don't hesitate to leave me a comment down below.
For the Grease patches, I'm going to make 2x2 squares, while for the Entangle patches they will be 4x4. But with these techniques you can create any shape you need. For the Grease, we will simply apply a lot of glue to the surface. The heat will cause it to spread a bit, giving the effect we are looking for. In the Entangle case, we will first outline the perimeter and then try to draw a net, drawing lines in a somewhat random manner until we achieve an interesting look. With the glue dry, we will paint the Grease with dark brown. Immediately after, we will add some yellow to create a wet blending effect, achieving different tones in the patch. For the Entangle, we will first paint everything green, and once it dries, we will use another shade to add variety, painting certain parts but leaving the base color visible in others. The green shades you use are entirely up to you. Now we will detach the pieces from the parchment paper and remove any paint residues that might be left. We will cover the Grease with glossy PVA glue or varnish. As for the Entangle, we will cover it with PVA glue and then sprinkle it with static grass. We will wait for it to dry completely and then detach the pieces again. Shake it a bit to remove the excess grass and store it back into the container. Finally, dilute PVA glue with water and apply the mixture to all the grass to harden and seal the piece completely. Once everything is dry, our Grease and Entangle patches will be ready.
Okay, now here's a less typical one. This marker will serve as a placeholder for miniatures that are in any type of magical prison, but you can use it to represent other states where the playable character or monster is incapacitated. We will make this by repurposing some old dice boxes.
So now, for the mental prison, we're going to use the transparent part of the dice boxes I had. These are large enough to enclose a standard miniature. With the hot glue gun, we will apply glue in a grid or lattice pattern. When it's dry, we will use a lighter to remove any strands that may have formed, being careful not to burn anything. Carefully, we will paint the glue with dark purple. This will be our base color. Then, we will use an old makeup brush to apply a dry brush of a lighter purple. This layer should be very light, just enough to highlight the shapes of it. Don't worry about getting paint on the plastic, as we will use cotton swab to remove any paint residues afterward. Next, although it's totally optional, you can use white to paint the center of the grid. Use a small brush for this and be patient to avoid painting where you shouldn't. Then you can apply purple again on top to tone down the white and achieve a pretty interesting effect. If you accidentally get paint on the plastic, use the cotton swab technique again to fix it, and you are done. Our mental prisons are ready to be used on the game board.